Yeah, move on then. Josh Green here for SecondsOut. Delighted to be joined by Shane McGuigan here at the media workout for Azim against Franck Pettitjean. Yeah. Shane, how are you doing?
Good, thank you, mate. Yeah. Over here, I think the second time in a couple of weeks. So it's a new spot, obviously, this Kensington boxing gym in Gloucester Road. So yeah, it's nice.
Big opportunity and big test, some may say, for Azim on November the 18th. What are you expecting to see from Adam, and where does it leave him? Because it's a big opportunity.
Yeah, listen, it's a huge statement to be boxing for a European title so early on in his career. But Pettitjean's I remember looking at him for a potential opponent for Josh Taylor when we had Taylor. And he's a well-schooled amateur. He's obviously still getting form at a European level. I think he's about 34, potentially 35. So yeah, he's well-schooled. Not massive for the weight, but also that means he'll probably be quite comfortable and fresh. And he's been hurt in a few fights, but he's always managed to find a way to get through his being hurt. So he'll have that experience. I think it's up to Adam to be able to break him down. And I think coming off a fight like that last one, Fanyan, who was very dangerous, and even though his record didn't suggest it, Fanyan dropped Timo Schwartz a couple of times, 2 or 3 times in his fight. So obviously he did. Adam said he was physically very strong as well. So he had a bit more pop, and I think the two of them were cancelled each other out. Whereas I think this fight, he's shorter. I think he'll have to work to get close to Adam. I think that will allow Adam to present a lot of opportunities to open him up and potentially get a knockout.
You say you're fighting for a European title at such a young age. Terrific achievement to be where he is at such a young age. Do we have to sort of not be as hyped up as we are? Because as much as an incredible talent he is, it can be easy to get ahead of yourself. That's
the art of boxing, isn't it? Everyone gets ahead of themselves, and everyone wants things like yesterday, and they want literally just cruising through. He has to be in fights where he's going to have to engage his brain, have to work and find a way to sort of break through on certain opponents. I think that's what makes people world-class fighters. The thing is he's so high up on bills. There's a lot of pressure on him. So if he doesn't get a knockout, people will go, oh, maybe he's not that good. But he is very, very special. He's got a fantastic future, and I think he just needs the right fights to really showcase his talent. I think that we're going to get that in the next 12 months. So stay 12 months, still the building phase, and then we'll see how he gets through that 12 months, and and the rate he's progressing, and then we'll take it from there.
I was ringside for Ellie Scotney's world title defence just a couple of weeks back at the Wembley Arena. Happy with her performance?
Yeah, I mean she was in against a very tough opponent that was just awkwardly running in, never been stopped. Had eight losses on her record, but gave a great account of herself on every single one of them, and always came to have a tear up and have a fight. So it's very hard to look good against those opponents that are trying to just rush you. But she did well. She boxed beautifully for the first 5 rounds. Got a little bit dragged into it in the second half, but still won. I gave her 9 out of the 10 rounds. I think she was always in control. It's just didn't set certain combinations up that she could have. But I think Ellie's going to be one of them. Like whenever we put her in against unification fights and big fights, she's going to rise to the occasion. I wouldn't say she drops herself down to the level that she's boxing, but she definitely will up the standard whenever she's in against fights that potentially people think she might be getting beaten against. You know what I mean? And then she'll have that bit between the teeth and really go for it.
I had the pleasure of speaking to Chris Billum-Smith earlier. He says out before the end of the year. That's 100%. That's going to happen.
Yeah, it's looking likely. Yeah, looking likely. I mean, that's what we're looking at. So, we got to wait. What this boxing malarkey's all about. It's, you got to get the TV to sign it off. You got to get the opponents to sign it off. Promoters have to do their job. They've also got to have enough time to sell tickets. So, we're hopeful.
How likely is it that fight is Lawrence Okoli?
Also, potentially hopeful of that. So, I can't really say much, but we're letting the promoter do his job, and hopefully we'll get news soon.
is there a case to be made that the cruiserweight division is probably the most exciting division in the world at the moment? You look at Chris, you look at Jai Opetaia's win the other week.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been such an underrated division over the years. You had Holyfield coming through, then you had Hay coming through, but obviously, there wasn't really a unified heavyweight, a cruiserweight title since Matt Cronelli versus since Hay domestically, and I think that's what we have the potential of having right now. If Richard Rataport can go out and win a world title, if Lawrence Coley potentially could fight somebody else for a world title, win it, then we can have a rematch as a unification fight. The beauty is that we've got a couple of really good cruiserweights. You've got definitely Lawrence, Richard and Chris, but then you've also got even the likes of Isaac Chamberlain coming through. I mean, he's had 2 losses, but he's still a very good fighter, and I think this just domestically, it's a fantastic division. It's probably the best division domestically, besides the heavyweights. I think because if you look at like Adam's division, you've got Dalton Smith and Adam, and they're on that trajectory to meet. But I mean, I genuinely believe like they're way ahead of everybody else. And I think like the middleweight is quite sparse as well. So I think domestically it's a fantastic division.
I want to get your thoughts on a fight that was announced last week in Devin Haney against Regis Prograis. Devin Haney, probably you would say one of his tougher tests. Obviously Lomachenko has to be right up there, but how do you assess his fight with Regis Prograis?
It's just typical Devin Haney. He gets everyone at the right time. And I don't mean to be pessimistic on that. It's just the truth. He got an old Lomachenko, he got an old Linares that wobbled him. Those fighters a few years before would have beat him. Simple as that. I think he's a very, very good fighter. He's a really good all-rounder. I think the Regis Prograis that Josh Taylor, that was his best. That was his when he was in his best form. I think he got hurt in his last fight. Whether it's the weight, whether it's the age. He's 34, 35, he's a very talented fighter, but his confidence will be a bit down. He's not coming off good form. He's been inactive, and I just think that it's perfect timing from Devin Haney and his team, and that's part of the business.
Fight we've got going on this weekend, and I think in some people's eyes one of the biggest fights of the year. In other people's, maybe not. It's KSI against Tommy Fury. Is it that big, and how do you see it going?
It's huge. As much as people like the boxing purists don't want to admit it, it's absolutely massive. There'll be like the likes of my cousins and stuff like that, young cousins that I've got that are buzzing about it. I remember I did some pads with KSI, and I think I was training David Hay and Groves and all of the other ones at the time, and it was just like, you train that KSI? I was like, and I didn't know how much of a YouTube sensation he was. So I mean, it's just those kids are now 20 years of age. They're now young adults, and that's what there's loads of them, and they're super excited and super interested in it. Obviously Tommy with Molly May, that's a love story made in heaven from Love Island. They got a lot of attention, and I think it's good for boxing. My only concern is that I spoke last night, I was on Steve Bunce's radio show. I was just talking about the repercussions of an injury. Now, if we had a fatality in a YouTube world, boxing's getting hit bad because there's so much press on it. And I think I hope that the regulations are, because personally, if it's white collar, just above white collar boxing, it's but they're doing it with 10-ounce horsehair gloves. There's no weight categories. It's just like, okay, what can you really get to, Tommy? Well, I can get to like 180 or whatever it is, 190, and really KSI is probably a super middleweight. He's a 12 stoner. He's a 76 kilo lad. Like if he was stripped down and actually like a proper boxer, so he's giving away a lot of weight, just like Tommy did against Jake Paul. Jake Paul's naturally a bigger man than he is, so. That's the only problem. If you've got that, and then you get one of them that absolutely turns one over and knocks them out. I mean, KSI versus Logan Paul, whenever they boxed, it was like 2 or 3 weight divisions between them. And KSI put on a good show, but it's just like that's where you're going to get an injury. That's my opinion.
From one fight you don't seem too enamoured with to one you may feel enamoured with in Oleksandr Usyk and Tyson Fury. Do you believe that 100% happens? We haven't seen a date yet, but it has been announced.
You never know with Tyson Fury, do you? I mean, he's 1 minute he says something and the next minute he doesn't, and I think there's enough money on the table for it to make it happen. I think they have to do it within a certain time frame, with what I've heard, and I think Tyson, he can go down as a great. Right, he can go down as a great if he stops now, because he's done everything that he set out to achieve. He's boxed Klitschko, and I think when AJ and Eddie Hearn looked at Usyk, they probably thought, yeah, he's sharp and skillful, but really the size will get to him late on, and they didn't really see him as a massive threat. They thought, we'll have this, get rid of this mandatory, and we'll have this tick-over fight in between, and then obviously he's boxed AJ twice, he's just boxed Daniel Dubois. 2 massive punches, and bamboozled the pair of them. So surely that skill factor is still holding its own up at heavyweight. And I think if the only thing that will stop this from happening is the repercussions of what it's going to do to Tyson Fury's career if he loses. Do I think he loses? No, but I don't think it's a walk in the park, and I think it's a hard fight. And I think more importantly, he knows more than anybody who he looks good against, because he's the one in there sparring, and he has to be the fleet-footed guy, and he has to be the guy because he's naturally huge, but he's quick for a big lad, and he's calm and comfortable. Whereas Usyk, the small adjustments, and it's not going to be a physical fight. It'll only be a physical fight if Fury makes it a physical fight. But he takes a side, takes an angle, and he doesn't load up with big shots. Tyson loves you to load up with big shots, and I think the volume will be key, and he'll nick a lot of rounds. And I think when you've got that in front of you, a little busy bee that he is, he's thinking, is it worth losing? And that is the only thing that will hold this fight up. Tyson Fury thinking, is it worth losing my reputation? Gone to Germany, beat Klitschko, went to America, won the first fight, didn't get it, knocked him out of the next 2 fights. The guy that everyone feared, he's done everything. So yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think we as boxing fans have to understand that that's the only thing that's going to hold that fight up.
Cheers for your time and insight as always, Shane. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.